Hi, my name's Debbie Wilson, and I just wanted to do a really quick little video and try to clear up what I believe to be a misconception around Passover. Every year around Passover, I always run into people who claim that the Last Supper of Messiah was not actually a Passover meal, but just sort of a commemorative meal. There are a couple of reasons that are at the root of this belief, and so I want to address that today because I believe that it's probably an error or a misconception in their understanding. One of the main reasons that are stated for this belief is that the word used for bread during this Last Supper Passover account is not the word for unleavened bread, but is the Greek word for leavened bread. So let's take a quick look at that. First, let's go to Luke chapter 22, starting with verse 7, and I'm quoting here. "And the day of unleavened bread came when the Passover lamb had to be slaughtered. And he, Yahshua, sent Peter and John, saying, 'Go and prepare the Passover for us to eat.'" So that's the end of the quote. So then Yahshua gives them more instructions, and you know the story. So they went and they did as Yahshua instructed. So let's skip on down to verse 13 to just save on some time. Quoting again, "And going, they found it as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. And when the hour had come, he sat down, and the 12 emissaries with him. And he said to them, 'With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before my suffering.'" End quote. So here it's very clear that this is a Passover dinner. And so I simply cannot disregard everything that we just read because someone has said that the word for bread used at this Passover dinner was not the Greek word for unleavened bread, but that it means leavened. In the first place, the meaning of words changes in any language. It changes over time. But secondly, I just can't disregard what the entire text is saying based upon one little word. But let's take a look at that word and see what we can find out about it. So one of the verses in question is Luke chapter 22, verse 19, quoting, "And taking the bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, 'This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.'" End quote. So the word used for bread in the Greek here is artos. Now, I'm not a Greek scholar, so I'm going to butcher these Greek words, I'll just betcha. So anyway, I did a simple search online to learn more about this Greek word artos. On a site called BibleHandworkIdea.wordpress.com, it says that artos means bread. And also in Greek, leavened bread is called zyme, and unleavened bread in Greek is azimos or azymos. I don't know. So according to this, it appears that artos means bread, just like in our English language, it can be leavened or unleavened. And if it had used the term zyme, or maybe it's called zyme, I don't know. But anyway, that's the term, not artos, for leavened bread that is specific in that way. Also, in addition, artos is the same Greek word used in Exodus chapter 25, verse 30, in reference to the showbread. According to Josephus in Antiquities of the Jews, he describes the showbread as 12 unleavened loaves of bread. So that word artos there is referring to unleavened bread. Also in Leviticus chapter 8, verse 26 and chapter 7, verse 13, we see artos used as bread in general, and then in those same verses it goes on to describe whether that artos was leavened or unleavened. In Hebrew, it is kind of the same thing. The word for bread in general is lechem, Leavened bread is chametz, or just leavening is chametz, and unleavened is, of course, matzah. So now chametz, or leavening in Hebrew, represents sin, and it also represents false teachings. So when Messiah picked up the bread on the Passover table and he broke it and he said, "This is my body," do you really think that bread had leavening in it? Because remember, leavening or chametz represents sin and false teachings. So of course not. He was without sin, and so only unleavened bread without chametz could possibly represent the pure, holy, sinless body of our Messiah, Yahshua. The other reason that some teachers say that this was not a Passover dinner, even though it seems clear to me that it says that they were having Passover, is because of the account of John, where this dinner is just before Passover. Now, we know for a fact that there were at least 3 calendars in use in Israel at that time. There was the Roman calendar, the Jewish Pharisaic calendar, and also the calendar that was found at Qumran in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there may have been others, but those we are sure of. Personally, I believe that Yahshua and his disciples probably used a calendar such as the one in the Dead Sea Scrolls that are based upon biblical writings and also upon the writings of Enoch and others, rather than the Pharisaic calculated calendar that they had come up with at that time. So this probably would have caused Passover to fall a day ahead of the Passover of the Jews on their calendar. As a matter of fact, we understand that the priests were okay with multiple different days of Passover being observed because there were thousands of lambs that were sacrificed. So this made things much easier for it to be spread out over multiple days rather than packing it all into one day. Ultimately, though, so that we don't get all bound up in the calendar debate, I just want to note that although Yeshua seemed to walk by a different calendar than the Pharisees, he died on the Passover on the Jewish calendar. So it seems to me that possibly he kind of recognized both calendars, if you think about it. I don't believe that John's account contradicts the other gospel accounts of the Passover, but he was just telling the story from the perspective of a Pharisaic Jewish calendar. So when he refers to the Passover of the Jews, he's not saying that Passover is particularly Jewish. He is referring to the Pharisaic Jewish Passover calendar date. So I hope that if you have been confused about any of these issues, that I've managed to clear some things up for you. As a matter of fact, we have not celebrated Passover yet at our home. And whereas most groups did that last Saturday evening, including most of my friends. But instead, we will be celebrating on April 27th, according to what I think might be a more scriptural calendar. But again, I caution you that we're all just doing our best to walk in the way of Messiah, and it's a process as we try to find our way back to those ancient pathways. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope this all made sense to you, and please do feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns, and we'll talk about it. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.